Hello, today we're going to look at surds and we're going to define what a surd is and also look at some simplification. So to the definition first of all. Now this is technically not the correct definition I'm going to give you. I'll do that in the next video. But for our purposes, a surd is the square root of a non-square number. So technically not the correct definition, but for our purposes that's going to work. Now what are square numbers? Just a little reminder. Well, 1 squared, 1 multiplied by 1 is 1, 2 squared, 2 times 2 4, 3 squared 9, 4 squared 26, 5 squared 25, and so on. So those are the square numbers. So a surd, square root of a non-square number, one non-square number 3, another non-square number 7, another non-square number 10, and so on. An example of not a surd, we've got a square root, would be square root of 4. Square root of 4 gives us 2. Another one where it isn't a surd, square root of 16. Well, that gives us 4. So, from our point of view, and at the moment, we're going to define a surd as the square root of a non-square number. So these are your surds here. Not surds here. So you can think of not surds as when you get a perfect square root. Right, moving on to some simplification. Now when we simplify surds, all we're really doing is we're re-expressing a surd so that the number underneath the square root is as low as it can possibly be. So we're going to think of two numbers that multiply to give us 75. And one of those numbers is going to be a square number, so we can eventually take the square root. So 75 is 25 multiplied by 3. So we can take the square root of 25, that comes outside the square root because we've taken the square root. So square root of 25 is 5, and we can't take the square root of 3. Therefore, the answer is 5 root 3. Now another way you could have split up square root of 75 would have been into 15 multiplied by 5. But that wouldn't have helped you because you couldn't take the square root of 15 or the square root of 75. So when you split up the numbers, or find the two numbers and multiply together, one of them has to be a square number, like here. Right, on to this one. So the first thing I would do is simplify the fraction, or look to see if you can simplify the fraction. So we can, in this case, we can divide both by 2, so it becomes 4 over 25. Then we can take the square root of both the numerator and the denominator. And if you're not convinced that works, maybe you could try that with a calculator. Square root of 4 on the top, on the numerator is 2, and square root of 25 is 5. Right, on to this example. So two numbers that multiply to give us 12, one of which is a square number. So 4 multiplied by 3, 4 being the square number. And 48, we could have 16 being the square number, multiplied by 3. Square root of 4 is 2, bring that outside the square root. Can't take the square root of 3, therefore that stays underneath the square root. Square root of 16, 4, outside the square root, and we can't take the square root of 3, so underneath the square root. So now we've got 2 lots of root 3, and 4 lots of root 3. So 2 lots of root 3 plus 4 lots of root 3 is 6 root 3. Goodbye, and thanks for watching.